Welcome, everyone, to the DCR Out Loud. My name is Tara McKinney, and I'm the Public Outreach Director of the Division of Cannabis Regulation. I'm here today with DCR Deputy Director Erica Ziegler. Hi, Erica. How's it going?
Hi, Tara. I'm doing good. I'm really glad to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you. We have a great show coming up today.
Yes, we do. Really excited about this conversation and excited to share this information with our listeners.
So a lot going on today. In this episode, we're going to talk to Kourtney about Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement, and of course, some micro minutes with Lesley. Are you ready to get going?
Yes, and we'll round it out with some general DCR updates. So let's get to it.
Let's get to it. We are very excited for our guest today. On each podcast, we like to highlight specific DCR units or bureaus as an opportunity for our listeners to learn something new about all the different and interesting work that we do here in DCR. Today, we'll learn more about the Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement and their work that contributes to ensuring adherence to law and rule.
Tara, I'm so glad we're having this conversation today. DCR's goal is compliance, helping our licensees ensure that they're in compliance with their obligations. So we want to educate them, support them, and making sure that they're meeting those regulatory requirements. Sometimes in issues of non-compliance, there may be a need for enforcement. In order for that to happen, there has to be an investigation. And that means we have to have an investigation to gather the facts around the issue. So we think that this conversation is important because it provides an opportunity to know what to expect and what that process looks like. It's really important work. We've got a great team, and I'm just really looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. And so today we have Kourtney Blomberg, a manager of Bureau of Investigations and Compliance. Hey, Kourtney.
Hey, Kourtney. Welcome to DCR Out Loud.
I think this is the first time you've been on the podcast, huh?
It is.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Kourtney Blomberg, and I have been with the state for about 14 years. I started out doing investigations for Department of Social Services and then moved over to Department of Labor, and about 4 years ago came to Department of Health and Senior Services with DCR.
4 years already? Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, Kourtney, tell us a little bit about your bureau. Number of staff, what are their responsibilities, et cetera?
We have an investigation staff, and then we also have the track and trace unit that falls under investigations and enforcement. We have 2 investigation supervisors, and each of them are responsible for 4 investigators. So we have 8 investigators and 2 supervisors that are primarily responsible for all of the investigations. And then we have a track and trace manager who also has 3 direct reports that do a lot of the metric review into package adjustments, anomalies in metric, things that they do their own, investigations. They start looking into different licenses whenever something pops up on a package adjustment or report that seems out of the norm, then they start looking into how things are being processed through metric to see if there's anything there for us to investigate.
So what are some things you would like licensees to know about your office when you reach out to communicate with them, and how can they best help you during an investigation or an inquiry?
Most times when we start an investigation into a licensee, we'll issue a notice of investigation. And once we send out that notice of investigation, we try to be as clear as possible on the retention of records. And I think that's something that comes up very often is the retention of video footage. So when we issue that NOI, we ask that they retain that video footage. And we understand that it is a significant expense, and we do our best to try to narrow the scope of what it is that they need to retain. But a lot of individuals aren't clear on the fact that they have to start retaining that video as soon as they receive that notice of investigation.
So really that video footage is really, really important to maintain and make sure. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, or is there anything else you'd like to add?
A lot of times it works for both. It works for both us and it works for the licensee, because what we do with that video footage is when we're looking at metric entries and we have questions about things that are going on, we can correlate that information to the video footage footage. So if they're keeping the video footage that we've asked them to keep, we're able to go back and correlate their responses, or look at a tag and what's happened with the tag and how product has been processed through the facility. We're able to go back and look at that video footage and help verify the information that they provide to us. So it protects both of us.
So Kourtney, I know there are some complexities around this requirement and how long video footage needs to be maintained and those types of things. And we don't want to go into a lot of detail here because it's a lot of information.
Absolutely.
But so I think that the best place for a licensee to get more information about video footage would be to reach directly out to your team.
Absolutely. Once we issue that notice of investigation, we try to communicate as clearly and as transparently as possible. And so if they have questions, then they just need to make sure that they're sending those questions via email to the cannabis complaints email address that's listed in the notice of investigation, so that they can clarify anything that they have questions about. Because it's not just about video footage. There's a lot of other requirements as far as retention of records. Mm-hmm. And if there's something that maybe they're not sure about or they have questions about, the easiest way to do that is just to reach out directly. So if we need to jump on a phone call and have a discussion about it so they can ask as many follow-up questions as they need to, we're happy to do that.
That's great. Thank you. So what are some common complaints that you receive?
It varies. It depends on if the complaints are coming from the public or if they're coming from the industry. Industry probably has a little bit better grasp of the rules and what the requirements are for the facilities, whereas the public, those complaints center around products or packaging, or we get a lot of complaints about things being underweight. Things are typically weighed at packaging, and so sometimes that weight can vary a little bit by the time the consumer purchases it, but a lot of them will take it home and weigh it, and so we get a lot of complaints because there's a variance there.
Really? So people take home their product and weigh it after they've purchased at the dispensary?
We're finding that there are people that are looking for the information on the packaging and then going home and weighing to make sure that the information's accurate.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Complaints. So what is the complaint process?
We have an email set up, and you can access that email via the DCR website. It is cannabiscomplaints@health.mo.gov, and people provide information, whether it be employees, licensees, the general public. That is where they provide information if they have a complaint about a facility, a practice, a product, a process. There are complaint forms available on our website. And so if you go to the website and you pull up the complaint form, it walks you through the information that we would need to get started.
Some complaints, we talked about this earlier about, we want to start with education when it pertains to compliance. So as you get those complaints in, your team is looking through to see if it's an opportunity to educate, or if it's something that you need to look in a little bit deeper.
We do. And a lot of times we find that it's something that there may not be a lot of direction around it. So it may be just an education piece. And so it may be an opportunity for our track and trace staff to come out to a facility and walk through some processes and discuss Metric and the guidance that Metric has provided. And a lot of times that'll help clear some things up, because a lot of investigations are derived from Metric entries and seeing things lose weight, gain weight without explanation, because that is typically an indication of inversion or diversion. And so sometimes it's as simple as processes, and we can go out into the facility and work with the facility to help them understand how to process those things through Metric to avoid those situations in the future. And then other times we have to go look into things a little bit more deeply. And then that's typically when we assign an investigator and have them start doing their deep dive into Metric and video and SOPs and all the things.
Okay, that's a very interesting process, and it's great to know we have that expertise on your team, and that we also have people that can go out and try to help educate the licensees on Metric. So anything else you want licensees or the public to know?
I think transparency, when we get started, having an open conversation about the information that we've requested, and then providing information that's been requested, helping us work through the process as quickly as possible, asking questions. If there is any confusion or if there are any questions, making sure that they are reaching out and getting in touch with us so that we can answer those questions for them.
Right. And what's the best way for them to reach out to you if they have any questions? cannabiscomplaints@health.mo.gov. I monitor that email as well as the supervisors in the unit. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and filling us in on Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement. Appreciate you.
Yeah, Kourtney, thank you.
On April 23rd, the division held the Missouri Cannabis Regulation Collaborative Quarterly Meeting, also known as MCRC. For those of you who are not familiar with the collaborative, it is a group made up of facility licensees from around the state. There are currently about 28 members.
Yes, and this group is to create additional collaboration between the division and licensees, and it focuses on big picture topics that impact the Missouri cannabis industry.
During this little segment, we're going to talk about that meeting and some of the agenda items that we had on that. Some of those were market study, patient and consumer allotments, CompLIA payment, and packaging and labeling item approval.
Tara, there were a lot of good conversations during this meeting. And one big takeaway that came out of this meeting was an update to our variants for barcodes. So talk a little bit more about that. We had a variance that was issued that allowed for our dispensaries to add a barcode to their marijuana products. So, but it only allowed for a barcode to be added if there wasn't already a barcode there. Mm-hmm. As a result from this discussion, and also some feedback that we had received prior to, we came to the conclusion that we could allow for dispensaries to add a barcode at any time. So they could add a barcode to any package, even if the package already had a barcode from another facility. So this really provides an opportunity for dispensaries to better maintain inventory tracking. So it's beneficial to the industry and also beneficial to DCR too. So because inventory tracking is very important. And so I think it was just a really good outcome from this meeting. And we were just really grateful to have the opportunity to update that variance.
Yeah, I was really happy with the way that meeting went, and then just all the input that we received from licensees prior to that. I think it really worked out well to provide that variance, and happy that we were able to get that feedback from not only MCRC, but from all of our other licensees as well. So
it's really a really great collaboration, and as is, other stakeholder opportunities that we participate in. So definitely appreciate that feedback from our licensees and specifically from the MCRC group. And I'd just like to add too, that the variance was updated and posted on May 7th if anybody wants to go to our website and check it out.
Oh, yeah. So you can go to cannabis.mo.gov and click on the DCR Communication and Resource tile. There's a link on that page to variances, and so that'll take you right to it. The other thing that we talked about was the packaging and labeling guide. And that has been posted on our website as well.
New updated packaging and labeling guide has some really good information, has all of the associated rules with packaging and labeling, and kind of simplified it, streamlined, and pulled the approval process away from it. So it's just really specific to packaging and labeling requirements.
Yeah, because we are going to actually work on an item approval process that will talk about those processes and how to get a package
moved through the system, submitted, how to submit an application.
Right. Another thing that we plan to do with MCRC is to plan a subgroup to review the packaging and labeling item approval process document, get feedback from some of our members, and we'll keep you posted on that as we move through that.
That sounds great.
Be looking out for more information on some membership openings. We have a couple spots open. And just to reiterate, the requirements to be a member are any owner, operator, compliance manager, or other leadership representative within a licensed operating facility. The key word is operating. However, a micro business license may apply prior to being operational.
Okay, so we look forward to the next MCRC meeting. And if you have topics that you would like for us to bring to that group, please email Tara at tara.mckinney@health.mo.gov. Also, this is a reminder that the division is always open to your concerns, questions, or requests to meet with us. You can contact Tara through email, and she'll make sure to get it taken care of.
For more information on MCRC, you may visit cannabis.mo.gov and click on DCR Communication and Resource Center tab. All right, it is time for Micro Minutes with Lesley. She is the Chief Equity Officer and focuses on microbusiness outreach and resources.
Hi, Lesley.
Hi, Erica. Hi, Tara. How are you guys today?
Doing good. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. I just have some reminders for my microbusiness licensees. First, operational deadline is coming up for round 1 licensees. Your deadline is 2 years from your licensure date, which was October the 2nd. This year it's 2025, and this is your operational deadline. So as you are approaching that date, if you don't see that happening for you, you need to get in touch with your BLS specialist, and they can give you some information on operational deadline variance. The licensee learning session is coming up in June 24th.
Yeah.
There's a morning session and an afternoon session. I encourage you to sign up. This is available for all licensees, including micro-business licensees. Registration is required, and they have to do that before June 17th. There's lots of different topics that they're going to be talking about. Everything from metric and the Missouri State Public Health Lab update, as well as information about management companies and ownership disputes. There's so many different topics that they're going to be talking about. It's worth signing up for one of those.
Yes.
Still time to register.
Sounds like a great learning opportunity.
Yeah, there's so much to learn about. I just found out that we have our first micro-business dispensary approved to operate.
That's great.
Yay.
How exciting.
Yeah, that is really exciting. And so how do they get in
Absolutely.
touch with you, Lesley, if they want to set up a time to meet with you one-on-one? Or
They can email me at leslie.turek@health.mo.gov.
Lesley.turek@health.mo.gov.
That's me.
Got it.
Thanks for being here, Lesley. We'll see you next time in Micro Minutes with Lesley.
Hey, Lesley, thanks so much.
Thank you.
The Division of Cannabis Regulation will be holding a virtual licensee learning session on June 24th. We have 2 times available. There's a morning session that runs from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. or an afternoon session that runs from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Some of those topics will include the Missouri State Public Health Lab, management compliance companies and ownership disputes, failed mandatory testing, variance request, packaging and labeling compliance, metric compliance, DCR resources, and reminders. Registration is required and is available and open until 11:59 p.m. on June 17th. You don't want to miss out on this. You don't want to be left out. So make sure to get on and register. We have over 200 registrants so far. So really looking forward to that. Again, June 24th. Morning session 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. or afternoon 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Those sessions are the same information. So attending either one of those will get you all the information you need. If you have questions, you can contact cannabis development at health.mo.gov. So the packaging and labeling guide was updated and posted to our website in April. You can check out the guide by going to cannabis.mo.gov and click on the Facility Communications and Guidance tile. For questions or feedback regarding packaging, labeling, and product design compliance, or the item approval process, please email cannabisproductcompliance@health.mo.gov. As indicated earlier in the podcast, the division is also working on an item approval process guide. We will keep you posted on when that is available.
Just a reminder that reference lab sampling will begin July 1st. You can check out last month's podcast and the Cannabis Connection newsletter for more information. It will also be discussed at the learning session on June 24th with additional guidance and information coming out along the way. Ryan Bernard will be joining us for the June podcast to provide more information too.
Well, I think that about wraps things up, Erica. We want to thank our listeners for tuning in with us today, as always. You can keep up to date between episodes, and there are several ways to stay informed. We have this podcast, the Cannabis Connection newsletter. Subscribe to our email list to receive emails from DCR on various topics and customize them to your needs. Go to cannabis.mo.gov and click on Join Our Email List under Contact Information. The Cannabis Connection newsletter is published quarterly. Your information link to Missouri's Division of Cannabis Regulation. For outreach, events, and more, visit cannabis.mo.gov and click on the DCR Communication and Resource tile. Thanks, Erica, for being on the podcast this month. It's been great having you.
Hey, Tara, thank you so much for having me. I really had a good time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you next time, everybody.
This podcast content is intended for adults over the age of 21 years old and is best to be used for informational purposes only. The content does not constitute official compliance or regulatory guidance. The department and author assumes no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this podcast. The information contained in this podcast is provided on an as-is basis with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness. Cannabis licensees should consult with their assigned compliance officer for rules and regulations specific to their facility. The content is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition and should not be relied on for any medical purposes. Patients and the public should consult with their healthcare providers about medical-related questions and the impact of cannabis on health. If you believe you are having a medical emergency, call emergency services. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed herein are those of the authors, presenters, and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by, the U.S. government, Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, or the government of the state of Missouri.